Welcome to Beat Saber.
Beat Saber.
Stand in the center and put the sabers into these rings to start.
Yeah, I can do that. Easy stuff. All right.
Good. Now cut the cubes in the arrow direction and match the
I'll
color.
be pro in no time. Let's go.
Wrong direction.
Oh,
Wrong
shit.
direction.
Man, these sabers suck so hard.
Wrong
Oh
color.
my god. Why are these sabers so bad? I need some good sabers.
Excellent.
Finding it hard to pass levels? Want a saber with a name that spins round? Tired of the endless options available on Model Saber? Want to have a go at making your own? Well, you're in luck, as this video will teach you how to make your own sabers. We'll cover everything from creating the most basic sabers, all the way up to making sabers with all sorts of custom animations. This video will be split into sections, with timestamps in the description and section headings at the top. We'll start with the basics and build our way up. However, if you already know some parts, feel free to skip to the sections you're interested about. Right, to start off, you're going to need Unity. As of right now, the current version of Unity that you need is 2018-16F1, a link to which you can find in the description. Creating your Saber in a different version of Unity will make your Saber not work properly. You're also going to need the Unity Saber project file. To get the latest version, go to the Beat Saber modding group Discord, head to PC Modeling, head to the pinned version, and you'll be able to find the latest version of the Custom Sabers project file. You're also going to need some modeling software. Blender is a good free program, but you're welcome to use any program you're familiar with. I'm going to be using Fusion 360 because Blender is too difficult for me. This is not a modeling tutorial. There are plenty of those out there. Just Google for them and you'll find them. I won't be talking in detail about how to model things. And lastly, you're going to need an image editor, something like GIMP or Photoshop, so we can make textures and trails. Right, so after downloading the Custom Saber Unity project file, we can open the Unity projects folder and then extract all of the contents to a folder somewhere on our hard drive or something. We'll just wait for that to finish. After that's finished extracting, we can click on Open in the top right hand corner and then navigate to where we have that folder that we just extracted and just open that folder and then click Select Folder. Then Unity will go through the first time setups there and it will open up our file for us. Once that's done loading, you should see some sabers here and a bunch of other stuff that you'll see here. So you'll have the hierarchy tree in the left there and the folder structures in the bottom. You'll notice two game objects, left saber and right saber. Just move those out to the side. These are your two sabers. Anything that is inside these two objects will be attached to the controllers themselves. So for instance here we've got the left saber mesh and the right saber mesh being attached to the right saber and left saber respectively. Anything outside of those two will not be attached to the controllers. Right, to start off, if we open the Saber folder, you'll see some more folders on it. You've got a left Saber, which is actually the mesh for these things, and then some other prefabs and some models that you can go with. These are just the default stuff, we won't be using that. And you also see two folders called Materials, which will have some of the materials that we can use, and Shaders, which have some of the shaders that Beat Saber can use. To start, we'll create a new folder in here, and we'll call this Mesh. We'll open that folder. Inside here, we'll put all the meshes for our sabers in. If you have multiple saber parts, you want them as separate mesh files or OBJ or FBX files. So by making that extra folder there, we'll just be keeping everything organized and tidy. To start with, we want to drag our first saber model into this folder here. I'm going to be using the infamous bamboo sabers that everyone wants. And then we can take that and then just add it into either the right saber or the left saber, doesn't really matter. And we will have that in game. If we double click on it, you can see the whole thing come up lined up like that. I'm just going to remove one of these meshes just because we won't be using it. And I'm going to drag that out of the prefab there. Just to keep everything a little bit nice, tidied and organized. Right now, this thing is black because we don't have a material on it, and it's also a lot bigger than the actual saber length there. We need to make our saber as big as this one, and we can do that by pissing about with these scale settings here. So I think if we go 0.05, That has made it a lot shorter, but it's still too long. So I think if we go... Right, so I've just messed about with the settings to get that basically the same length there, but as you can see it kind of sticks down a little bit. So if we just change our view, we can then change where exactly our saber is located, and that'll be a perfect saber for it. That's still a bit too thick for my liking, so I'm gonna... There we go, I'm happy with the size on that one. Now that we've got all of those values kind of dialed in to match the saber there, what we can do is we can copy that and then paste it into our left saber. Make sure they're in the right hierarchy, otherwise they won't actually be attached to the controllers themselves. And we can also delete the old saber mesh. Okay, now that we've got our two sabers in the right size, I'll just move them over there. We can get to actually adding some materials to them. Right now they're black and they won't actually show up in-game as either a red or blue or whatever colours that you picked. To add materials, if we go out of the meshes folder and into the materials, you'll see that there are two materials called a glow matte blue and a glow matte red there. These are the two basic materials that you can use to attach to your things. They're actually two shaders called the unlit glow, and this one is also the unlit glow. You should also see a tick box for custom colours there. If you don't see that tick box, you've got an older version of the custom saber project file and you should update it. To simply add a material, all you've got to do is drag the material and then put it onto the mesh that you want to add it to. So in this case, we want the right one to be blue and the left one to be red. If we just hide the blue one, you'll see that the left one is actually red, and that is it. You have two sabers that will come up in game as either red and blue. To export the sabers, all you have to do is go to Window in the top there. You might not see it because of the bar. Hold on. Window, and then there should be a little button called Saber Exporter. Here we'll open up this little box that gives you the ability to add an author name, so I'll add me in, and then a saber name, so let's call this video test, and then we hit export, and then you can navigate yourself to your Beat Saber directory, your custom sabers folder, and then just hit save, and it will start exporting the file so that you can use it in game. Now the export's successful, all you got to do is load up the game and view it. Right, now that we're in game, if we select our saber that we made from the custom saber menu, we can see them in the right side there. I've got my custom colours on there, that's why they're not red and blue. Let's give them a go in game. So here they are. You've got the red and blue. I've obviously got mine grey and green. And here they are working fine. They've got the default trail with no animation trail, which is what we require in the next step. Right, so we tested them in game and they were working fine. They're still a bit too thick for my size, so I'm gonna cut it down in half basically on both of them. So they're just a bit more appealing to me. Save that file, and there we go. Now, we want to try and change the trail on these things, because the default trail is really annoying. Let's try and go for a really thin type of trail that, you know, the pros would use. Right, to start with, let's make a new folder, and we'll call this images, for any images that we might add, and we want to import a trail image. I've made one earlier using something like Photoshop or GIMP or whatever, but basically, well, that's a messed up preview. It works fine, trust me. We want to make a trail material next, so we'll go into create, and then down here we'll have material. We can call this trail, and we'll change the shader on there to particles additive, and the texture we'll pick our trail. So here we go, that's the shape that I was talking about. Basically like a white little squiggle or like a streak or something on a black background. You also want to go back onto your images, make sure your image is set to clamp. That way you won't get any repeats of anything. Hit apply. If we go back into our materials, we'll see a trail material without those weird white outlines that we had before there. Alright, to make the actual trail, we'll actually need to create 2 game empties. These empties will tell the game where to start the trail and where to end the trail. So let's make one game object, and we'll rename that. We'll call this start. And let's make another one, rename that one too, and we'll call this end. Now you want to position these somewhere on your Saber so it knows where the start is and where the end is. So first of all, let's make sure they're all in line. Right, so what I've done there is position our start and ends in the start and the end of where I want, the other way around, the start and the end of where I want the trail to start and end. You want to make sure that they're, inside the Saber, towards the center by messing around with the position values as required. Once you've done that, we can copy that, move one set into the right Saber, and then paste another set into the left Saber. Each individual Saber has its own start and end values for the Saber colors. Next, we can start making the actual custom trail script. If we click on the right Saber or the left Saber, you'll have something called an event manager script, which we'll get into later on, but for now we want to add a component and just type in trail, and you should see a script for custom trail. This is going to give the Saber the trail that we want. We want the point start to be this start, so we can just drag the start that we want into there, and the point end to be this end, drag them on, and then the trail material, we want it to be the trail material that we have here. So if you click on that, and then drag that material on there, and the color type, this is the right Saber, so we want it to be the right Saber, and there we go. We've got the custom trail script all done. We want to do the same for the left Saber as well, so click on there, add a custom trail, and then click on start for that one, end for that one, trail material as the trail material, and this is going to be the left Saber. By changing the color type, we make sure that the trail is the same color as the color that the person set in game. If you want the trail to be a specific custom color that the person can't change in game, we click custom color, and you can change using the trail color option there. We also don't want it to be too long, so the length, I'm going to change that to something like 14 for both of them. There we go. Save the files. Now if we click on Window and then Saber Exporter again, we'll have this. I'm going to just overwrite my old one, and just to, because I don't care. You can make a new one if you want to have version control over your Sabers. If we overwrite it, and if we then load it up in game, we should see that we have a nice, decent trail along with a slightly smaller Saber as well. Great, let's go check them out in game. Alright, there we go. As you can see, we don't have that annoying trail anymore, and we've got this nice, smooth... Okay, that covers the basic part of this tutorial. We've made some basic Sabers and exported them into the game with some custom trails. In the next part, we're going to be covering how to do the spinning name, some more simple animations, along with animated trails. So to make a spinning name, we need to first make a name model. The best way to do that is actually in Blender. It's quite easy. You want to first open up an empty blend project. If you've got things inside your scene like lights or cameras, delete them all. Then if you Shift A, we can create a curve there. This is what our name is going to be going around. And if we Shift A text, we can then create some text there. If we go into edit mode, we can then edit that text, and I want to have my name on there. We'll have red. I actually want it to go around twice, so I'll do my name twice there. Obviously, depending on how long your name or your player name is going to be, you can either have it go around once or twice or 3 times. Mine's quite short, so I'm going to have mine go around twice. If we go back out of edit mode, and then if we go into there, and we go into its modifier properties, we can then click on Add Modifier, and then Deform and Curve. And then the curve that we want to deform around would be this curve here. So if we just drag that on there, we can see that our name goes around the curve like so. If we then go onto that and turn the rotation up to 90 degrees, we will then have our name around a curve. You might have noticed that our name is in the wrong way. We actually need it to face the other way. To change the direction, we want to go into edit mode, so you can do that by hitting tab or by going there. Make sure our circle is selected. You want to then hit F3, and then you want to search for swap, or switch, pardon me. Switch direction, and then hit enter on the switch, and it will change the direction of where our name is facing. Now, this is nice, but it's too close together. So if we go back into our text there, we can pop out of edit mode because we don't need to be in edit mode anymore. Go into our text properties. We can then change the word spacing so they're actually opposite each other. I'm actually going to change the offset as well, so we don't have to change that later on. So if we just change that to something like, so it's in between the E, then we'll have red there and then red there. Next, if we click on File, then Export, we want to then export it as an OBJ, save that to our meshes folder in our Unity project, and we should continue on from there. Okay, so I've imported our name into Unity. I've just simply dragged the OBJ file into the meshes folder that we've made. So we've got a name there, and we can then drag our name and then slap it into our project file here. So we'll have all of that in there. Obviously, this is 1, in the wrong direction, and 2, facing a, not aligned properly, and too big. So we've got to then mess around with the transform settings to make sure that all of this is in the right size for the Saber. Okay, so what I've done there is I've made sure that my name is now in the right rotation by changing its X rotation, and made sure it's the right size, or about the right size. We can test in game later. What I had to do was actually, once I changed the X rotation to make our name spin, we'd obviously be changing one of these, and it wouldn't actually change, it wouldn't actually spin properly. So I had to create a new empty. I've just named this name again, and we'll just move that into the right position, and this way we will be able to use our new empty, drag our model into this empty, and then use the Z axis to actually spin it later on. But first, we actually want to give this a material. So if we go into Sabers, materials, and we want to create a new material. I want it to be white, and we don't have a white material yet. So we'll click on create, we'll find material there, and we'll just call this name. Now, if we go into shader and click on Beat Saber and click on, we'll go there an unlit glow so it glows a little bit, and make sure it's on white. So only certain shaders actually work with Beat Saber. Anything under the Beat Saber shader list will work, and a lot of the particles shaders also work. Not everything works. Trial and error your way through what you like, what seems to work. You can also join the Beat Saber modding Discord to find out some other shaders that are not listed here, and see how they look in game. To apply the shader, we just obviously drag our material and then apply it to the mesh there, and then there we are, we have it white right there. Now that our size and materials are sorted, we can actually start doing some basic animation to this model here. In this case it's a name. You can also add other models, like if you want like handles, or MDOT for his dot spiral sabers have made some spiral models or some spiral stuff instead that spin around. Basically it's the same process. You create the additional model that you want, import them in, and then animate them like we're going to do. But to animate them, we first need to get the animation panel. You can find this in under Window at the top again, and just look for animation, or by hitting Control 6 on your keyboard, and then a window like this will pop out. I'm just going to dock that under there. To start and create an animation, we want to click on what we want to animate. So in this case, we want to click on the name, and then hit Create. This is going to ask us to create a new animation name. This is going to put it in the asset Saber stuff. I'm going to call this name spin, and then that's going to give us access to this little timeline here. If we click on add property, we can add the rotation thing like that, or if you want, you can click on the big red icon, and it's going to start recording all of the animation that you're about to do. To begin with, we want to make a keyframe on that 0, so I'm just going to move that Z back to -45. And then, in about 2 seconds, I want it to do a full revolution. We're going to, move that scale across. Then, in 2 seconds, I'm going to move my playhead across, and I want it to do a full revolution. You can either spin it with your hands like that, or you can just type in the angle that you want it to end at, so 315 here. And then, as soon as you hit the stop record, that animation has stopped recording. You can see it right there. If we hit the big play button here, we can actually see it play in the actual engine here. So hit play, it'll take a second to render everything, and if we go into our scene, you can see it spinning. Now, it's spinning and then it's slowing down, and that really looks kind of bad. We want to change that so it's just a constant spin all the way through. To do that, you just select all of your keyframes like that, right click, both tangents, and you want to click on linear. This way, when you hit play, you're going to get a constant spin without ramps up and down in speed. Once you've done that, we can copy our name hierarchy bit here and then paste one into the left saber as well. Don't have to change any of the positions, so we've got one inside the right saber and one inside the left saber, as so. Now, if we save it, export Saber, export it into our game again, go into our Beat Sabers, Custom Sabers, save, replace the one that we already made earlier, wait for the thing to do its export, and we should have our name spinning in game. Right, let's go take a look at that. Right, now that we're in, we select our Sabers from the Custom Saber menu, we can actually see our names spinning around. Load them up, play with them, and we've got our spinning name on there. Right, now we're going to talk about trying to make some animated trails. Right now we've got a basic trail there. If we go into our materials, it's very static. It's just that little white swoosh there. But let's say we want to make it into a fire trail or something. There's lots of many ways to do that, but one of the more easier and less performance demanding way is by using shaders. The shader I'm going to use is linked in the description below, but for now we're going to create a new material. Click on new material. We will call this fire, why not? And then we want to click on standard, go into the shader option and change it from standard, and you want to go into Beat Saber and click on fire trail. To get this fire trail, you just download the trail from the description there and then add it into the shaders folder here, and you will have access to it. So we've got a bunch of different offsets here. Basically what this fire trail actually does is basically it's a displacement map. It moves one image over the other to give the illusion of a fire. So for our alpha texture, we're going to pick our trail image. For the fade mask, we're also going to pick our trail image. And then for the displacement texture, we want to pick an image of some flames. I've already imported some image of some flames there. It's just a grayscale image of some fire, basically. But once you pick that, you get this little fire effect there that changes with time. You can change these intensities and speed options here. I'm just going to leave them as default because they're totally fine. And instead of applying this trail material, what we're going to do is now apply our new trail material. So we go into our right saber, and then under trail material, you just got to drag, fire, and then do it for that one there, and then save. Then if we go to Window, Saber Exporter, and then export it. Replace our one that's existing, and we'll be able to see this kind of fire effect on our trails when we play with it. Obviously, this is a specific shader just for fire. There's also shaders that we can get for water and all sorts of other effects. Just look in the pinned section in the Beat Saber modding Discord there. Okay, so now we're in game, and as we can see, we've got this nice simple little flame effect to our trails. If we look at it real closely, you can see it kind of flaming up and down because of the new shader that we used. Anyway, that concludes the basics of saber making. In this video we covered importing models, adding materials, exporting the Sabers, adding your own custom trails, and even some animated trails, and doing some simple animation with the models with our names. In the next video we're going to delve into more complex topics such as inverted Sabers, advanced animations, the particle system, render textures, and using the script manager to implement things such as the full combo effect or other effects that you might want to see, like when the level starts or ends. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.